Well, good evening on Sunday, May 11th, 2025. We're back for another edition of the Step Up podcast. I'm Mike Peacock, your host, and joined here by my partner in crime, Dr. Marty Durden. And it's been a great Mother's Day here. First of all, I want to say happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there. Wives, mothers, you are the hand that rocks the cradle. As the old Glenn Campbell song said, the hand that rocks the cradle rules the world. And I hope everybody's had a great Mother's Day. Marty, how you doing?
Oh, doing great, man. I've been thinking of my mother all day and how big an influence she was on my life. And every man should be so blessed as to have a mother like Doris Durden was to me.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I've been thinking about mine as well and talked to my sisters and, miss my mom tremendously. And one thing I'll say to everybody out there, if your mom is still around, cherish the time you've got with her because we only get one of those in a lifetime. And so cherish the time that you have and spend that time wisely with them. And Marty, speaking of mothers, we have a mother joining us today and a very special guest. The head women's golf coach at Columbus State University, Kristin Culpepper, is going to join us today. And there's Kristin. She is in the studio now. And Kristin, first of all, welcome to the Step Up podcast. Marty, I believe, has known you a little longer than I have, but I've known you for a little while now and know your family. And thank you for being willing to come on here with two old guys and talk a little bit about this business that we've all been a part of for a long time.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
I knew Kristin as, Kate Culpepper was one of the golfers who played for me, who was a state, when we won state in 2011 or 2010, maybe it was. And he was a low medalist in the state. He's a great amateur golfer. He won the Green Island Country Club member champion for like 6 times. Is that right, Kristin? Something like that.
I think so, yes.
Maybe more. So tell the audience, this is just completely off the cuff here, but how did Kate propose to you?
So we were at Green Island Country Club here in Columbus, Georgia. It was, I think, the day before Thanksgiving, and my parents were in town. And I didn't think anything of it. He asked if I wanted to go golfing, and my parents would ride around on the golf cart with us. We played the front 9, and number 18 now used to be number 9. And I can't remember who put the pin in the flag, or I'm sorry, who put the flag in the hole. But right after that, he dropped down on one knee and asked me to marry him. And he still likes to joke to this day that I've never told him yes, but it's yes a million times.
Keep him guessing. That's good strategy.
Yeah, great story. Kristin, tell us a little bit about your background. And your playing time and basically how that led around to you being in the coaching profession.
Sure. So I started off at Seminole State College of Florida in Sanford, Florida for my first 2 years of college. And then I transferred here to Columbus State University. I knew that I wanted to get out of the state of Florida and just try something new. I had never lived outside the state. I've only experienced summer since it's summer year-round in Florida, and Georgia was the next state up, and I knew that if it snowed, it wasn't too often. So they had a great business school and a golf program that they had started 2 years prior to me transferring. So when I visited, I fell in love with the campus, the size of the school, and what the route the program was going in that time. So I played 2 years here myself, and then I became the graduate assistant for 2 years. And when I graduated in 2015 with my master's, I decided that I wanted to try out corporate America for whatever reason. At that time, I thought that's the route that I wanted to go. So I went into the HR field. for a little bit with a local company, and then I transferred to a different company. And I've had some great jobs. They've taught me lots of things. I love knowing the why behind everything. So I did a management trainee program with a company, and I learned the company from the bottom up. And there were a lot of hard days, but it was challenging in the best way possible. And I think it prepared me for a lot that I was going to face. And then Kate's and I, my husband had our son, and I decided to stay at home with him for about a year and a half. And I quickly learned that that wasn't for me, and I missed work. And I had just started a new job in May of 2023 with a local company working from home, and I liked it a lot. And then I got a call about this opportunity in October of 2023. And I got a call from Coach Sparks, and I loved when he was at Columbus State when I was a player, and he asked me if I'd be interested. And I was caught off guard. I said, "Can you give me a week to think about it?" And so he said, "Sure, take your time, give me a call back." I called him back at the end of the week, and I said, "I can't find a reason to say no." And so I told Coach Durden, like, I just feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and I thoroughly love coaching. It's challenging, but in the best way possible. And I don't think I can see myself doing anything else ever again. So.
Well, that's great. So you literally received a call on the phone from Coach Sparks. That's really interesting.
Yeah.
One of my questions is this. I always ask every guest, why? Why do you coach? What do you think? You said that you feel really happy being where you are. What do you think is it that does that in our careers?
I think it's passion. I'm passionate about the game of golf. I think it teaches us a lot that we can use in the real world, from mannerisms to professionalism, etiquette. But I love watching people succeed and grow. And so for me, I haven't been at Columbus State 4 years yet, but I'm so excited to get the opportunity to watch these young girls prosper over 4 years. I've had the opportunity for a year and a half now to watch some seniors and some grad students graduate, and just the time that I've been with them and seeing how much they've grown, it's just a very fulfilling feeling, and I learn a lot from them as well.
That's really interesting. I feel that same way too. How about you, Mike? Do you feel coaching has that sense of belonging?
Oh, no doubt. It is something that, it a lot of times I felt like when I was coaching that it filled every void that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Because you build those relationships with players. You have to, there's sometimes you have to walk that fine line of not crossing any lines with relationships. You can't necessarily be buddies, but at the same time, you feel like you're making a difference in somebody's life, and you're able to practice your leadership skills. You're able to really feel like that something is good is happening while you're having some influence on a young person's life. But Kristin, I want to ask you the climate around athletics, no matter the size of the school, whether it's at the high school level, whether it's at the junior college level, whether it is at the 4-year school level, and the different sizes of those schools. The climate around athletics in general has changed a lot, especially in the last probably 5 years, and it's really taken on a new image, I guess, and I know image is part of one of the big deals of what's going on in athletics. But what have you seen as trends in athletics in the last few years, and how has that made it? Has it made it more difficult on you as a coach, especially a young coach, or are you finding it maybe a little easier to navigate some of the waters now?
It's a good question. I guess it depends exactly what trends we're speaking to, but in regard to the year and a half that I've been at Columbus State, I can tell you that just from when I started, I came in mid-season to now, it's been about a year and a half, and it's constantly changing. And it's challenging. It's very challenging with the portal, with NIL at the D2 level. For women's golf, you don't see it as much now, but if any athlete has the opportunity to go to a school and actually play instead of riding the bench or working up to play, I would go to a school where you can actually have a chance at playing and then growing from there is my recommendation.
It's a different dynamic now than it used to be. Portable players is what I hear a lot of coaches talk about. And well, tell me this: how do you approach practice? Give us a little bit about your practice philosophy, some of the things y'all do that you believe it makes sense.
Sure. We have a great practice facility. We're very lucky here at Columbus State. So Mondays, the golf courses are closed here in town. So Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we usually are at the practice facility doing drills. I'll come up with different drills, and I would say 80% of those are focusing on 100 yards and in. That's where you're going to see strokes come off the quickest, the more you practice it. So 80% of our practice is honed in on wedge game, pitching, chipping, putting. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're usually alternating between the two country clubs we use here in town, Green Island Country Club and Country Club of Columbus. And if we're not qualifying, we're playing. But on Fridays, sometimes I'll switch it up. And if we can get out on the golf course in the late afternoon, we might do a fun little match play or scramble, or we might play from the forward tees or the back tees. I like to call it Fun Friday and switch things up a little bit.
Gee, I think that's great. I think you're working on the way they score. And that's brilliant. And that's what the average golfer doesn't work on, by the way. You're out there listening to Coach Culpepper, take her advice, work on those wedges.
It's the most boring part of the game to practice, but it's the most beneficial.
Yeah, with my game, which is, completely hack worthy, that part of my game, if I practice that part more, I'd probably be a better golfer. But I'm a typical male. I like to pull out the big stick and see how far I can hit it and growl a little bit when I hit a good one. And sometimes we forget about those shorter sticks in our bag are the ones that are really, really, really important. And I think you're doing it right by spending a lot of practice time with those, because that's where scoring happens. But going back to practice a little bit and your relationship with players, been reading a lot lately, having to do with the portal and having to do with the fact of building relationships with players. And I've been reading some different quotes by different coaches talking about how the environment has changed a little bit. And I read a quote earlier today where a coach at a very large school said that athletes now, it is still okay to coach athletes hard as long as they know that you have their best interest at heart. And Marty and I have talked several times with our guests about this aspect of coaching and serving those athletes that we're coaching. And where do you find that balance in being able to coach a kid hard? You're working with females, and a lot of the male coaches that we have talked to have worked with females as well. But you're working with a female athlete, which has a different dynamic than a male athlete. But how do you balance coaching hard and at the same time making sure that they know that you do have their best interest at heart?
Right. So I tell every one of my players, like, you're here for a reason, and whatever that reason is, like, some are more school oriented, some are more golf oriented, whatever your goal is, I'm going to help you get there. And I want to grow the relationship with you. I want to get to know you. I want to know what drives you. I want to know what makes you mad. I want to know what makes you angry so that it can better help me serve them on and off the golf course. But like you mentioned, sometimes that fine line comes into play. I don't want to say a hard coach, but I like to challenge my girls in the best way possible that'll push them to their limits, because just like I was telling Coach Durden, when I go to the gym, those trainers push me a little bit further than I think I have left in me. I want to push my girls a little bit more than I think they have left in them, to see their potential and see them grow and rise to the occasion. But it is a very fine line. And I think once you get to know your players over time, you know which ones you can push a little bit more, or I don't want to say like talk differently, but everybody has a different personality, tread lighter with others. But I think God gave me a son because he knew that I was going to get a team of girls. And so I treat my girls as if they're my actual girls. And I tell their families that, when they're here in Columbus, I will take care of them. If they need anything on or off the golf course, I'm here for them. So I want them to trust me as much as I trust them.
Gee whiz, that's wonderful to hear, Kristin. Our research that this podcast came out of a research evidence that we had performed for a long time. And one of the things that we found is that the kids of today, the Gen Z athletes that you're coaching, they look at their coach as a mother figure. And they view you through that lens, something like a mom to them. And here we have you on Mother's Day. And we're talking, we've hit the bullseye, I think, on what success in coaching is, and that's relationships. Mm-hmm. Building that relationship with those girls that you're doing. Tell me this, how do you, there's an old saying about you treat them all, you can't treat them all the same, but you treat them all fairly. Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is, as a coach, it's your responsibility to get to know what drives that each individual athlete and tap into that, right?
Yes, exactly. I meet with my players weekly, especially after tournaments. We'll talk about their rounds, but then we have, before the semester starts, we'll have goals that we set. And then after the semester, we'll talk about if we met those goals or whatnot. Outside of the golf course, we are doing monthly bonding activities, so we get to know one another when it has nothing to do with golf. So I think it's just as important to get to know someone outside of the golf course, in this case, as much as on the golf course.
I'm as excited to hear you say, Kristin, that the relationship building and getting to know your players is extremely important. I've always been a big advocate of it is difficult to coach a player that you don't know anything about. Right. that you don't take the time to get to know and find out those things that kind of make them tick a little bit. And I'm very, very encouraged and very excited to hear you say that you do that. I have an athlete in my family who is probably after this season has just finished. He just got another associate's degree this week, and he's probably going to be finished with athletics in college, and he's probably going to become a normal college student now. And he's, from league ball all the way through, he's had different coaches who've done it a different way. And he has experienced coaches along the way that made no effort to get to know him at all as a player. And quite frankly, he didn't respond very well to those. And I don't think any player on those teams with him that had a coach like that responded very well. And I just, I want to applaud you for actually doing that, for getting to know them, because you mentioned a key phrase, and I'm sure Marty picked up on it too. You said that the way you learn to serve these athletes is getting to know what makes them tick, getting to know what challenges them, getting to know what makes them happy, what makes them sad, what makes them angry, and that is what I think we're all about with this podcast, with Marty's research, with a higher standard. How do you best serve these athletes? And I appreciate you saying that, and appreciate you be willing to do that. What are some ways that you use to get to know these kids? I mean, yes, you have meetings, you mentioned that, but how are some other things, just maybe casually, that you do that you get to know your players?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, the van rides are the best way. Everybody gets to know one another. But outside of that, if we're at practice on Mondays, when I usually set aside 30 minutes for each player. So during that 30 minutes, I tell them, what do you want to talk about? Or do you want to work on your golf swing? Do you want to work on your putting stroke? Or do you want to talk about school? Do you want to talk about life? Do you want to talk about missing home? It's whatever they want for those 30 minutes each week. And I think that's really helped me get to know them, because for one, it's not me telling them what we're going to do for 30 minutes. They're telling me what they want to do and what they want to spend their time on. And so I've had some situations where we start working on the golf swing, and then we end up sitting on the ground talking about how their week's going, or what they may be stressed about, or feeling anxious about. So it can lead from one conversation to the next, but I would say that the best thing that's worked for me is putting aside those 30 minutes, and it's only 30 minutes a week, but a lot can happen in 30 minutes.
I think that's beautiful. I think we don't talk enough anymore in our society. We're too busy. Hey, we're too busy doing this, and we don't really see each other face to face. Kristin, I've written a few books, and every one of those books I've quoted you in it. Did you know that?
I didn't know about every book. I knew about one.
Yeah, in the line that I quoted is one I want you to elaborate on. It you says coaching and leading is from the heart. From the heart. Tell us what you mean by that. Elaborate on that.
I think honestly, it's just organic, and it's not scripted. It's every day is different, and you can go into the day with having a plan and have to shift because maybe one of your players is having a bad day, just needs somebody to talk to, or you were going to have a practice at the facility and all of your girls just want to sit down and talk and get to know one another. I think sometimes building that organic culture is what helps the good scores come. So I guess in reverse, coaching from the heart is just something that's organic and can't really be it's just natural. It's hard to put into words. It just happens.
Real. It's
Yeah.
just authentic, real. And I think the kid follow that leader. Gen Z is so skeptical. We're finding out they're just really cautious in their relationship building. But if they build a relationship, it really sticks longer in this new generation of kids. Do you agree with that? You think they may be a little harder to approach, but once they buy in, it's a great relationship. What do you think?
Yes, 100%. I tell my girls all the time that in life, whether they want to go pro or work in corporate America, whatever they want to do in life, it all comes down to relationship building. It's all about who you know and who you meet and who you can grow those relationships with. So I'm a big advocate for putting the phones aside when we can. I love when we're on the road and in the middle of nowhere and they have no cell service. I start celebrating and they start freaking out. But I'm like, these are the memories we're going to remember. We won't remember when y'all are behind your phones checking TikTok or whatever you're doing. It's these moments that are raw and that we need to interact with one another and get away from the phones. And I think a lot is that Gen Z didn't grow up without a phone, and I'm a millennial, so the first part of my life, we didn't have phones. I can remember the first phone that my mom, my brother, and I all shared. It were rotating days, and then if you used up all the minutes, you got mad at the other person. But see, those are the memories that I remember when the phone wasn't around and when we didn't have any minutes left to use on one another. So, anyways, the relationships that my girls, I'm trying to teach them that down the road in life, it is relationship building, and that means more than being behind the phone screen.
That's the truth.
No doubt. Yeah. And Kristin, and let's get back to the meaning of this day. It's Mother's Day. Do you have any? I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit. You may have something you want to share. You may not. But do you have any stories from growing up with your mom where you can remember your mom being an encourager of you and making a difference with something she said to you? If there's a phrase or a mantra that she's passed on to you, that is something that you've carried with you, not only into coaching but into your married life, into your life as a mother, all of those things. Is there anything that you want to share from that would honor your mom?
If I could honor my mom in a way, I'd have to say my mom has always been a hard worker. She's always had 2 to 3 jobs, but she's always been supportive in whatever my brother and I did, and always there for us, no matter if she had those 2 to 3 jobs. I feel like I always have jobs and side gigs. The only side gig I have right now is that I teach a servant leadership class, but it's something that I love, obviously, alongside coaching. But she's always taught us to be a hard worker, and I can tell that it's paid off not only with the lives that she gave us, but the lives that I'm giving Kip and my husband now as well.
That's cool. And I think it's really great, Marty. She teaches servant leadership, and our whole theme of this podcast is dealing with servant leadership, especially for coaches. And we sort of feel like that it's really difficult to be a coach and not be a servant leader, because that's what coaches do. We serve the players that we coach. I spent a lot of my time in athletics outside of the coaching realm and more in the support staff realm, which was even more of a servant type position, and learned so much from so many different people, but have gotten the pleasure of being around so many coaches over my many years of living so far. One thing I've noticed, all of the good coaches, and I've seen, and I'm not going to lie, I'm going to be truthful here. I've seen good ones, I've seen bad ones. I've seen coaches from all walks, and I have seen some that are just absolutely tremendous, and I've seen others that there's no way I would ever let my kid play for. You learn, number one, when you're around it a long time, to be very perceptive and pick up on things. But all of the good ones have that one thing in common, and that is something that you've mentioned a lot today: relationships, but also serving those athletes and getting to know those athletes. And how big do you think it is to be a servant leader as a coach?
I agree 100% with you. I don't really think that you can be a good coach or a successful coach without being a servant leader. They kind of go hand in hand with one another, because you are putting your players before yourself. I don't know how many times, I put the team before my family, and they understand that, and vice versa. Like, if we're not traveling, I'll put my family before the team in some situations. But like I mentioned before, if my girls need something in the middle of the night or whatever, I'm dropping whatever I have, or if I'm sleeping, and helping them with whatever they need and have going on. So you don't even think twice about it. It just happens naturally.
How do you balance? You talk about giving a little of yourself to your team. I know that's tough sometimes. How do you balance the work-life balance? How do you and Kate's handle that?
So I could not do it without him. He's my biggest supporter, and he is the best dad to Kip. And it took, as a reminder, I came in mid-season, so it took that spring semester last year of Kip getting used to me traveling more times than not. And there were times where Kate's would call me, and Kip was only 3 at the time, or turning 3, and he was, going through the terrible twos, and he'd keep me updated with everything. Kate says, Mike, he's very detail oriented, so he'd keep me updated with play-by-plays, and I had to, tell him nicely, like, I just need to know at the end of the day if Kip's safe and y'all had a good day, because it kind of hurts my heart knowing that, he misses me a lot, because I obviously miss them, but we've worked through those situations, and we make it work. And Kip knows now, like when I travel with the Cougars, he's excited for me to get on the road, and he's all about his Cougars, is what he calls them. So he's very excited. During season, there's never been a time when Kate's hasn't stepped up to the plate, and if things are thrown at the end of the day where I have to attend meetings or do different things, he'll go get Kip, no questions asked. So no doubt I couldn't do it without his support.
Yes, that is beautiful.
It really is.
It is.
And I can't. And
ahead.
Marty, we can't fail to ignore the other member of their family, and that is Alice. We got to include Alice in this, because Alice is she was a member of the family before Kip, I think, right?
Yes, correct.
And so for those of you who may not know, Alice is their dog, and she comes to work with Kate's quite a lot. I see her basic's every day.
I think
she and I have gotten to know each other pretty well. In the beginning, she's a little protective of Dad, but she and I have a good relationship now, but Alice, our dogs are also great members of our family, and you guys have done a great job with Alice, and she is I'm sure a fun member of your family.
Yeah, she's very protective of Kip, but nobody gets near her food, and she'll come around and nudge Kip. Like last night, her food was down, and nobody wants to eat her food, but she thinks Kip does, so she'll go up and nudge Kip like she may nip him a little bit. She would never, but she likes to toy with him. So then we'll have to put her food up, and she starts acting normal. I think she's a little bipolar.
That's something. I love Kate's Culpepper. He's like another son to me, and we spent a lot of time together. I couldn't be prouder of him. I know what kind of man he is. I just think it's great that you and he married, and you're in the position you're in now to make a big difference in a lot of lives. Hey, that's why we call this Step Up. You stepped up, and you're making that difference, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And Kristin, just I guess kind of sort of wrapping things up here. If there's anything, do you have anything on your heart that you might want to share with other coaches who might be watching this, that something that's important to you that maybe you want to pass on? It could be literally anything, a word, a phrase, a quote that from somebody, anything you want to pass on to some other coaches that you feel like could help them as they're in their journey, whether they're coaching females or males or co-ed sports or whatever. What would you want to share with a coach maybe who was looking for something that could help them maybe advance themselves in this profession?
That's a great question. The only thing that comes to mind, honestly, right off the bat is I try and start my day every day with a smile, no matter the situation. You never know how much a smile can do for someone, whether they're on your team, you're working with them, or somebody on the street. You never know who just needs to see that in their life. So I've had a few situations where my girls have told me that they're just thankful that I'm still smiling, or if we haven't played a great round or whatever. We'll talk about it, obviously, but at the end of the day, it's bigger than golf scores in that situation. So to pass along to other coaches, I would just say to to try and keep smiling. Life's too short not to have fun and love what you're doing. So you can't do that with being grumpy or having a sad face on your face. So go around with a smile, and you never know what it could turn into or who it could help in the long run.
That's great advice.
That really matters. That's great.
It doesn't cost a thing to be kind, right?
Right.
Well, we're going to wrap it up here on this edition of the Step Up Podcast. We certainly, Marty and I both want to thank you, Kristin, for being with us, and you absolutely make us look better, no doubt about it. And probably
No doubt.
You're probably the first guest that's done that, to be honest with you. But we so appreciate you being with us, and we appreciate you spending time and talking about your philosophy. And you're still young in the coaching realm, but there's big things ahead for you. We know it. We can see it. And you keep doing what you're doing, and we're going to be watching the headlines because you guys are going to be making them before long for sure. And we appreciate it. And Marty, you and I will be back at it again next week with another guest that we'll talk about this profession, and we're going to continue branching out. And those of you out there who are coaches, if you know somebody who would be a good guest for us to have, get in contact with us and let us know. But Marty, last words before we get out of here.
We're honored to have Kristin here. This is awesome. I mean, I think actually you're the epitome of servant leadership in the coaches in this city. And that's why we wanted to ask you on here and keep doing what you're doing. It's wonderful. We'll follow you and be a supporter. If there's ever any way we can help you, heck, let us know. We're always there. You're doing good work. Thank you so much for being a guest and sharing. And you coaches out there, listen to what this young coach is telling you, because she is a good one, and she'll come up through the ranks, and we're honored to have you. So thank you. Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Mother's Day, and happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there. And every coach out there has had a mother, and they know how important this day is. And happy Mother's Day. And again, like I said earlier, if your mother's still around, take the time and enjoy the time that you have with your mom, and cherish it. Absolutely cherish it, because you never know what's going to happen in this life. But Kristin, again, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Best wishes to you. And Kate's is pretty okay, I guess. So you can tell him I said that. But have a great rest of your Sunday. And for everybody else, we'll see you next week with another edition of the Step Up Podcast. Be sure and tell your friends about it. Tell them they can find us at Georgia Alabama Sports on YouTube, Georgia Alabama Sports Live on YouTube, and in some other places coming up. But make sure you spread the word about it, and let's grow this thing and keep it going, and continue to serve coaches and athletes in everything that we do. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time.